Support Name Explain on Patreon for $1 a month to enjoy ad-free videos, exclusive content, your name at the end of each video, as well as the chance to have your idea for a Name Explain video made into reality. Go to patreon.com/Name Explain or click the link down below.
The mid-1990s was a really weird time to be born. If, like myself, you were born at this time too, then the map of Europe has looked pretty much the same for your entire life. This idea of Europe and the nations which inhabit it are the de facto and the way it has always been. Yet it was only a few years prior to our arrival on the planet that things looked completely different. The USSR was still a thing, as was the nation of Yugoslavia, and the nation of Germany, which has always been just the singular nation of Germany our entire life, was not one, but two countries. For anyone currently in their late 20s to early 30s in the year 2024, the idea of an East and West Germany just seems like a relic of the past. A period in wider history of Europe and the world, something that happened and ended. Yet you must remember there was only a couple years prior to our birth that these weren't a relic. They were real things, and for the generation preceding you, aka your parents, this was all they knew. Most parents of 90s kids had probably lived their entire life in knowing a divided Europe and a divided Germany. It must have seemed insane for them to see the country united, but to us as 90s babies, it's all we really know. It would be like if Korea reunited today and kids born tomorrow would have known nothing but a united Korea. This hasn't really got all that much to do with the video as a whole, I just find it wild being born in the direct aftermath of a major world-changing event. But in turn, the grandparents of 90s kids could potentially remember a united Germany prior to its split, a single Germany that was incredibly different to the single Germany we have now. This is because Germany split into two nations in 1949. This was all in the aftermath of that little historical event known as the Second World War, and that dumb idiot with the stupid facial hair. Post-war Germany was split between the Allied powers more or less down the middle, with Berlin completely in the east also being split in half too. The two single nations that rose out of all of this were called West Germany and East Germany. Despite the similarities in their names and their shared history up to this point, the two nations took very different paths. West Germany was a democratic capitalistic state, one set up by the UK, the USA and France. It was a lot more open to the nations of the world for things like travel and trade, and there was a higher quality of life here compared to the East. More products from across the world available in shops and the like. East Germany, on the other hand, was a communist state, even officially describing itself as a workers' and peasants state. It was initially set up by the USSR, with many elements of the nation under state control like the economy and goods. Travel between the two nations was extremely limited too. Friends and family who lived on either side of Germany were suddenly cut off from one another, and many were not reunited until this nation was once again unified. This was exemplified in Berlin, which saw the infamous Berlin Wall erected to literally divide up the city. Someone should write a song or something about lovers stuck on either side of the wall. That could be cool. These were two resoundingly different countries, and the difference can even be seen in the language used in them, especially in East Germany. Now, it's not like an entirely new language was developed in East Germany or anything like that. Officially, both these nations still had German as their language, though Russian was apparently mandatory in East German schools due to their ties with the USSR, and East Germans had varying degrees of Russian fluency due to this. What instead happened to language in East Germany was the addition of many new German words for concepts that occurred during this period, and new terms for old things. This East German lexicon is known as GDR or DDR German. These derive from the nation's official name in English and German respectively, the German Democratic Republic and the Deutsche Demokratische Republik respectively. I'll be using the term DDR German in this video. A lot of the new words that formed via DDR German were coined directly by the East German government themselves, the Socialist Unity Party, or SED for short. The SED wanted the German of their nation to have a more socialist flair to it, to make it stand out and be somewhat more unique than the German spoken in the West. But it was also created to attempt to influence the people of the land, to gently guide them into their way of thinking. This is all very 1984, and fittingly enough, East Germany came into being the same year that book was published. A great example is with the DDR German word for flags. In normal German, the word is Fahnen or Flaggen, but the SED changed it to Winkelement in DDR German. This translates into meaning waving element. This was done to inspire people to wave flags more often when they had them in their hands, all in the aim to install more more nationalist pride in the nation. I mean, most people would naturally wave a flag anyway, but having waving in the name would really help remind people what they were meant to do with them. It sounds incredibly silly to our modern ears, but in a newly formed nation like East Germany was at the time, the powers in the land were desperate to try and create some sort of unique national identity. And that identity had to have a strong socialist image. This can be seen in the name they gave to cows, of all things, the big mammals we eat and get milk from. In normal German, they're called a Kuh, which is simple enough and is clearly related to the English word for them. In East Germany, however, this was not good enough. They instead used the equally simple term of Große Einheit for the creatures. This translates into meaning a large livestock unit. This stark, socialist-inspired name elevates the creature from being just another animal on the planet to being a commodity used by humans for their gain. It is in equal parts dumb, hilarious, and a little bit sinister. This was also once again to give cows a unique flair in the land. German language professor Sigmar Feil spoke on the name, saying they wanted to show that a socialist cow was something special, different from a capitalist cow. And job well done, I suppose. Somewhere else the East German government wanted to affect language is with religion. They implemented many atheist policies in their nation, and prior to the division, the land had been pretty Christian. This is still felt today, as even modern Eastern Germany is often seen as one of the least religious places in the world, if not the least religious. Removing religious elements from words can be seen in DDR German, especially with terms relating to the most wonderful time of the year. The traditional Christmas bonus, which translates to Weihnachtsgeld in German, had its name changed to Jahresendprämie, meaning year-end bonus, to remove the religious element from the name. This even led to the renaming of angels that traditionally sit on top of the tree, as it went from being called a Weihnachtsengel, which means Christmas angel, to being called a Geflügelte Jahresendfigur, which means a winged year-end figure. Though in defense of that one, it was seemingly coined for satirical reasons, to highlight the absurdity of some of these new DDR German words. Other DDR German words and terms included the likes of Westpaket, a name for a care package sent from West Germany to East. The Berlin Wall received the DDR German name of the Antifaschistische Schutzwall, which translates into meaning anti-racist protective wall. A really interesting one is with the DDR German name for a driver's license. They became known as Fahrerlaubnis, replacing the German name of Führerschein. This was done to remove the first part of this name. As that term had become deeply linked with a certain person, they were just a tad eager to remove mention of. It's weird to me that the original name stuck around in West Germany, and is even used in modern German today, as the first element of this name has been scrubbed from a lot of the modern nation. They also had the term of Bruderländer, which means a brother country. This was used in relation to other communist states at the time. Dacha is a really interesting one too. It's the name for a summer house families would stay in during holidays. And what's unique about this one is that it's a DDR German term that actually derives from Russian, coming from the Russian Dacha, meaning a similar thing. Then we have the two different names for grocery shops in both West and East Germany. In West Germany, they were called a Supermarkt, which many English speakers will easily understand. In DDR German, however, they were dubbed a Konsum, meaning a cooperative shop, which related to the communist nature of these stores at the time. There's also the distinctly East German term of Späti. This comes from Spätkauf and means late shop. It was used in relation to smaller shops which sold things late into the night. They are now a staple of Berlin and seen as a relic of the nation's past. They are akin to the bodegas of New York City. This is just a handful of DDR German examples, but there are many lists online you can find if you want to know more of them. From what I can gather, however, these words had varying degrees of success. Some of them came to be the go-to words for things in East Germany, while others were taken with a pinch of salt. It doesn't seem like Große Einheit became the go-to word for cows for East German farmers. They probably still called them a Kuh and only used the DDR word in a tongue-in-cheek manner. We know that East Germans thought this language was a tad silly. As mentioned, that DDR German name for Christmas angels came into being to make fun of this lexicon. Over in West Germany, however, the German language was just doing its own thing, staying more true to the German spoken before the division of the nation, and not being swamped with strong government-mandated words. It was this version of German that won out when the wall fell in 1989, and the country was reunited formally a few years after. Many East Germans were connected with the wider world for the first time in decades, and they wanted to be fully intermixed with the Germans west of them. The use of DDR German words fell to the wayside pretty quickly. Many East Germans even struggled with integrating with West German, but now just German, life. This was even apparent in language. Many now former East Germans were confused how now former West Germans spoke and the words they used. A Los Angeles Times article from the 16th of August 1994, a few years post reunification and just a month shy of myself coming into the world, and also 30 years ago from the day this video is going live, which is a pure coincidence. Like, I seriously didn't plan that, I just found this article. Hey, it happened, weird, eh? But anyway, this article speaks of Ingrid Kuhn, a German language scholar who during this time set up a hotline for East Germans to call to help them understand the language of West Germany, which was pretty quickly becoming the language of the entire nation. She says in the article that people in Eastern Germany have had to adopt a whole new system, and with the new system, a whole new vocabulary. Right now, they don't feel comfortable in their own mother tongue. They don't want to go into a shop and make fools of themselves. With Ingrid's help, DDR German more or less became a thing of the past, though it hasn't died out completely. There are many people alive today who would have spent most of their lives as citizens of East Germany, and if you're a former East German citizen watching, please let me know down in the comments below. These words would have been ingrained into these people, and it's pretty hard to just stop using certain words. A really fun example of a linguistic divide between East and West Germany to this day comes from the term for the sound a duck makes. Ask a West German what sound a duck makes and they'll go quack quack, while an East German would most likely say knock knock. This divide has its origins with a popular East German kids show which featured a duck character going knock knock, and from here it has survived to this very day. Quack in East German is instead used for the sound a frog makes. To many millennials, Gen Zers and beyond, this is all just a thing of the past, something that happened before we were around, we read about in history books or watch YouTube videos on while sitting on the toilet. But to those who came just before us, this was their world, a world where Germany was divided into East and West, a world where two Germanys coexisted in very different ways, and a world where certain Germans insisted that cows were called Gloss Wien Einheit. And with that, I have definitely mangled enough big German words for one video. Sorry about that, Germany.
Name Explained depends on viewers like yourself supporting the channel financially on Patreon, so a huge thank you to everyone who does. Donating just $1 a month helps the channel amazingly and gets you bonuses including ad-free videos, exclusive content, the power to request ideas to be made into actual Name Explained videos, and your name at the end of the video with all these awesome people. Visit patreon.com/NameExplain or click the link down below to find out how you too can support the channel. Thank you. Thanks for reaching the end of the video. Why not watch another and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Name Explain. You can find myself on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain to talk with myself and other name nerds. All that will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.